From the heart of the Space City to the heart of Gen Z, welcome to Next Gen Conversation. Not Dad's Talk Radio. Ethan talks to you about the issues and events that matter to our generation. This is the Next Gen Report with Ethan Buchanan.
Hey, everybody. How are we? I'm doing great, man. The Texans won. I knew we could do it. I'm so happy. I'm so excited. On to New England. All right, we got a lot to get to today. Obviously, the situation in Minneapolis has really not calmed down at all. Every night I go to bed, and then the first thing I do when I wake up is I open Twitter and I see what happened there overnight. And there's always a video, usually it's of Nick Sorter getting harassed on the street or openly attacked on the street, or, you know, some crazy liberals launching fireworks at an ICE detention center, because that's always a good idea, right? We haven't tried that before. Let's do that again and see what happens. I mean, these people are crazy, but we knew that already. So anyway, we're going to be talking a lot about that today, this fine morning. And of course, we've got some stuff from the Supreme Court, some interesting cases, or it's weird. It's two cases, but it's one case on whether or not Ohio and West Virginia can keep men out of women's sports. So that's very interesting. But first, let's talk about our old pal, Jeffrey Epstein. So I'm sure you've seen, as I have, liberals love to use Jeffrey Epstein as like a fix-all political weapon. Anytime you bring out any good thing that the Trump administration has done, they'll literally hit you with, this is just a distraction from Epstein. And listen, let me be the first to say, I am not overly happy with the Trump administration's handling of the Epstein files. I think Pam Bondi needs to be fired over all of this. She has screwed the pooch. President Trump, I think when it comes to Epstein, has screwed the pooch. But at the same time, we also have to be realistic here. As important as it is to make sure that whoever was doing business, quote unquote, with Epstein is found and brought to the harshest form of justice, we also have to acknowledge the simple fact that that is not the only thing that's important in the United States. There are other things that we also need to do. And if those things are getting done, we can pat the Trump administration on the back for doing those things while also saying, do a better job on Epstein. All right? So anyway, at least the House GOP is trying to get to the bottom of this. You'll remember it was the House GOP that passed the Epstein Transparency Act that mandated all the Epstein files be released. It's the Trump administration, the DOJ, Pam Bondi, that's kind of screwed the pooch on doing that. But nevertheless, House Republicans continue. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton were both subpoenaed to testify on this because they knew the guy pretty well. And Bill Clinton didn't show up. Hillary Clinton is supposed to be there later today. Let's see if she shows up. But Bill Clinton didn't. In Washington, former President Bill Clinton and ex-Secretary of State Hillary Clinton skipped out on their closed-door depositions before the House Oversight Committee regarding late pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, forcing the panel's GOP leader to begin contempt of Congress proceedings on Tuesday. So, in case you didn't know, if you get subpoenaed, you're supposed to show up. It's kind of the rules. Here is James Comer. He's the chairman of the House Oversight Committee. Here's what he had to say about Bill Clinton skipping out. Take a listen.
I think everyone knows by now Bill Clinton did not show up. And I think it's important to note that this subpoena was voted on in a bipartisan manner by this committee. This wasn't something that I just issued as chairman of the committee. This was voted on by the entire committee in a unanimous vote of the House Oversight Committee to subpoena former President Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Now, Hillary Clinton's supposed to show up tomorrow. We'll see what happens there. But with respect to the former president, he did not show up today. One reason I think most Americans want President Clinton to answer some questions is because he visited the White House. Jeffrey Epstein visited the White House 17 times while Bill Clinton was president. I've been in Congress 9 years. I think I've been to the White House 9 times in 9 years. Epstein was in the White House double the amount of time that I was under one president. And then we know that Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's plane somewhere around 27 times after the presidency. So no one's accusing Bill Clinton of any wrongdoing. We just have questions, and that's why the Democrats voted along with Republicans to subpoena Bill Clinton.
So, I think he makes the key point. We've got questions. And that gets to the kind of uncomfortable and difficult truth of all this Epstein stuff. Nobody really knows what the hell was going on. Nobody really knows who was involved. But we know, like Chairman Comer pointed out, Bill Clinton knew the guy pretty well. They hung out quite a bit, quite a lot. And hey, maybe there's questions Donald Trump needs to answer about that as well. I don't know. I do know that he didn't hang out with with Jeffrey Epstein half as much as Bill Clinton did. So listen, we can all sit here and say, oh yeah, the Trump team needs to do better on this. The DOJ needs to do better on this. Pam Bondi needs to do better on this. But you can't at the same time you're saying, what about Epstein? What about Epstein? What about Epstein? In the comments of every single one of my posts, various TikTok commenters, at the same time you're saying that, if you say, oh, well, Bill Clinton doesn't need to show up. Okay, well, now you're a hypocrite. Because I've been very consistent on this issue. Everybody, especially the DOJ, needs to do better, and we need to get to the bottom of what was going on here. That's been my consistent position the entire time. And I hold that to everybody. If there's reason enough for Trump to be subpoenaed once he leaves office, he can't be subpoenaed as a president, but once he leaves office, if he gets subpoenaed and they start asking him, what do you know about Jeffrey Epstein? He should go and he should answer those questions. Just like every other former president or everybody else. I've been very consistent on this. The left is not consistent on this. They really want Trump to go down for Epstein, but the moment you mention Bill Clinton, they're like, that's whataboutism. No, it's not. Do you want to get to the bottom of this or not? Clearly, the left is not as concerned with getting to the bottom of this as they pretend they are, because yesterday, when Bill Clinton failed to show up for his subpoena, not a single Democrat ever mentioned it. I haven't seen one, and I've been looking. I was looking last night. I was looking all day yesterday. Nobody. Not one. So what is it? Do you really want to know the truth about Epstein, or do you just want to use Epstein as a political weapon to whack Trump over the head? I mean, honestly, you can't have it both ways, but that's what these people want. All right, we're going to be talking a little bit more about this. Of course, Bill Clinton wrote a letter. We'll get back to that in the next segment, and then we'll talk immigration. I'll be right back. Alrighty. Continuing with this Epstein thing real quick, I just want to give you Bill Clinton's response to all of this. And I also want to remind you, the glass ceiling has kind of already been broken on this. And by this, I mean taking actions like subpoenaing a former president or members of a presidential administration that used to be considered something that you couldn't do. And I imagine the left, if they ever do decide to address the fact that Bill Clinton never showed up for his subpoena, they're going to hit you with some nonsense about how, oh, he's the president, there's different rules for him, or he's a former president, or la-di-da-di-da. You guys arrested Donald Trump. You guys charged him multiple times with crimes that you completely made up, all right? So you don't get to sit here and pretend now that Bill Clinton is above reproach and we can't just sit him down and ask questions. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. You open this door. We're playing by your rules. So now buck up and play the game. Bill Clinton doesn't want to play the game. So instead of showing up for his subpoena, he sent Comer, the chairman of the Oversight Committee, the House Oversight Committee, this letter. And boy, is it silly. Chairman Comer, we want to take a moment, given everything, to address you directly in this letter that we're posting on Twitter. Bill Clinton posted this on Twitter, by the way. This past year has seen our government engage in unprecedented acts. See, there it is. This is unprecedented, right? Or at least that's what they're trying to imply by bringing up unprecedented acts. People have been seized by masked federal agents from their homes. Oh, good heavens. These are illegal aliens. Calm down. Their workplaces and the streets and la-di-da-di-da. Every person has to decide when they have seen or had enough. And we are ready to fight for this country, its principles, and its people, no matter the consequences. Oh, yes, that's what you're doing. By refusing to answer questions about Jeffrey Epstein, you're fighting for the country. I don't understand your logic there. I don't understand how those two things are connected. I mean, you got to be kidding me. As chairman of this powerful congressional committee, you have an immense power to target anyone and subject to them to closed-door interrogations and more. It's called a hearing. It's called a deposition. It's not that serious. The decisions you have made and the priorities you have set as chairman regarding the Epstein investigation have prevented progress in discovering the facts about the government's role. What? He's sitting you down to ask you about all of this. You were the president. You had this guy at the White House. What did he say? 17 times? At the same time that he was supposedly sex trafficking minors. And he's trying to ask you about that. And you're saying no because he's obstructing the process or whatever. I mean, it's patently ridiculous. But the good news is Comer isn't stopping there. Bill Clinton ignored a lawful subpoena. We're now initiating contempt proceedings. Tomorrow, Hillary Clinton gets her chance. Show up at 10 a.m. or face the same fate. So who knows if she'll show up? We'll know, I guess, within the hour of release here. This goes up usually about 9 o'clock in the morning. So by 10, we'll know whether or not she showed up. I'm willing to bet that she won't. I mean, it's unbelievable, the double standard that these people hold. At the same time, they are going to continue to use Epstein as a political weapon against Trump. At the same time that they say, no, we're not going to answer questions about this from the GOP, they're going to turn around and say, no, the GOP is covering things up. It's ridiculous. These people are ridiculous. But anyway, let's talk immigration. I saw this video. It kind of cracked me up. I feel like this is a good segue into this. This leftist woman, she legitimately needs some mental help. She's crazy. Let me just play you this video and then we'll react to it all together. I don't want to give you any spoilers.
Crying, and I stopped in this gas station, and the only two people in there are immigrants, clearly Spanish speaking. And they're so nice. And they smile at me and they say hello. And they don't know the reason I was just crying was because my heart is broken. Because
No, the reason you're just crying is because you're deranged, lady. If you walk in to anywhere and see two Hispanic people and your first response is to just cry, unless you're Hispanic and those two Hispanic people are your Hispanic relatives that you haven't seen in years, you're crazy. This woman is crazy. But continue. Keep being crazy.
everything that's going on. And then I look stupid because I'm
Correct.
crying. And I want to say to them, I'm sorry my country is such an asshole. And that we weren't paying attention. And now we're in this big mess. I didn't say that. Instead, I said, can I use these dollars to pay for this? And she said, yeah, money's money. And I said, except pennies, right? And then I dropped the money in my food. And then I had to give her...
You got to be kidding me. So, just so we're all on the same page here, these Hispanic people are more than likely legal. Because let's be honest, most Hispanic people in the United States are legal. So these people have nothing to worry about. If they're smart, they're probably not worried at all. Because I hate to break it to you, most regular Americans, despite what you might see on Twitter, really aren't that worried. Because they understand, oh yeah, I'm allowed to be here. They're going after people who are not allowed to be here. That's who's getting in trouble. That's who's getting arrested. So just close your eyes and imagine with me for a moment that you're these two Hispanic people and you own this shop or gas station or whatever, and this ridiculous woman walks in, sees you, bursts into tears because of how oppressed she thinks you are, and then proceeds to pay you for your goods and services with money that she just dropped in her food. These are the white liberals, ladies and gentlemen. They're crazy. They are. Rather than saying, oh, these people are clearly hardworking business owners, I guess. Great. I'm at a gas station. Let me just be normal. Buy my products, my food, my snacks. I mean, she breaks into tears and then breaks into tears again, recounting this, all because she just happened to glance at some Mexicans. I mean, you gotta be kidding me. If I were to write a story making fun of obese liberal white women, I would write it like that. Except I didn't write that. That's real life. That's a real woman who recorded that and decided to put it on the internet. You gotta be kidding me. Unfortunately, that is kind of the lower end of the spectrum. The upper end of the spectrum when it comes to crazy liberals is just violence. And we've seen plenty of that, of course, in Minneapolis. So, fireworks wielding agitators clash with federal agents outside Minneapolis federal building. Like I said, this has been happening consistently since last Wednesday. It's not slowed down. It's not going to slow down. I don't think. I see no reason why it would. I mean, the video, again, is all over Twitter. This is another good reason to be on Twitter. If you like kind of doom scrolling and getting concerned about the future of the country, Twitter's a great place to do it. Federal agents fired tear gas and rubber bullets after agitators hurled fireworks at them outside a federal building in Minneapolis on Monday amid continued resistance to immigration enforcement in the Twin Cities. Again, these are not just people protesting, right? That's the narrative. Oh, they're just protesting. Oh, that lady was just a legal observer, this term that sounds official that they completely made up. No, fireworks are dangerous. These people are being violent. That's what's happening here. Open violence against our ICE officers and ICE agents. And we'll talk about this in the next segment. It's getting worse, and it's getting worse because people want it to get worse. They're encouraging it to get worse openly on Twitter. I've seen posts. We're gonna play one of them, a video of somebody saying, "Oh, we need to start killing these people." A leftist online saying that. This only escalates because one side has no incentive to do anything except escalate, and the other side has no choice but to respond to the escalation. It's a very vicious cycle, and like I said, it's getting worse. We'll be right back to talk about it. All right, I think it's very important that we be clear, crystal clear about the escalatory cycle that is being driven by the radical left that we are currently locked in. Let me explain this to you in the simplest terms possible. The left keeps using more and more violent means to resist the immigration policy that President Trump very openly campaigned on and that most Americans voted for. Again, Trump won the popular vote for the first time in a while, and he did it campaigning on this exact immigration policy. He was very clear. We're going to go after the worst of the worst, and we're going to get everybody else along the way too. At no point was he saying we're going to leave these illegal immigrants alone. That never happened. The left will try to tell you, oh, all he said was the worst of the worst. No, he said that's where the priority is going to be. And it has been. But this implication that the left is trying to fabricate, where everybody who's not a child rapist is going to be left alone. No, if you're illegal, you're going to be deported. Those are the rules of the country. Those laws were written by Congress. Donald Trump campaigned on enforcing them, and that's what he's doing. The left lost that fight at the polls, and so now they're trying to turn it into a literal fight. And when that happens, the federal agents have no choice but to respond in kind. When someone pulls a gun on you, you have no choice but to pull your own firearm or die. Those are your options, right? That's where these ICE officers are. Someone is driving a car towards you, because that's what happened in Minneapolis. The video is clear. We have it from 5 different angles. In at least 3 of them, you can see the car actually hit the ICE officer. At that point, you have 2 choices. I either let this woman with this car kill me, or I take her own life in self-defense. And in defense of others, by the way. Because if she's willing to hit this ICE officer, chances are she's willing to hit other people too. And that's the situation we're in. And that's the situation the left put us in. They're doing this. They're the ones that are launching fireworks at ICE officers. Fireworks are a weapon. Or at least they can be. Have you ever been hit in the head with a firework? It doesn't feel good. There's a reason there's warning labels on fireworks. There's a reason you have to be 18 in order to buy them. I don't know if you know this. They're kind of dangerous. And so when you're attacking federal agencies with this, they have to respond in kind. They have to shoot their own canisters at you. Pepper balls, rubber bullets. And the more and more you start normalizing the use of firearms in resistance to ICE, guess what ICE does in response? They use their own firearms. That's why they have them. But this is the path that we're going down, and the left is very happy to take us down this path. I've seen tons of these videos over the last, let's call it a week and a half, of people saying, get your gun and bring it to these ICE protests. Or not even just saying that, because even that, I would say, you know what? If you want to go to a protest, you have the Second Amendment right to be armed and to carry your firearm. You know what? If you want to peaceably take a gun to a protest, I have no problem with that. I have no problem with it, by all means. By all means. But you better not unholster it unless somebody unholsters theirs first. You draw your weapon only in self-defense. Now, that doesn't mean you just sit there and cower and hide in a corner. If you see somebody down the road that starts attacking people, pull your gun, shoot them before they get a chance to kill you. That's why we have the Second Amendment, and that applies to ICE officers as well. So if you just want to have a gun on you and peacefully protest, by all means. That's not what these people are calling for. And I'll prove it to you. Take a look at this video. This dorky-looking guy in a beanie. Take a listen to what he says here.
Hey, so look, I'm just gonna come out and say it. I don't really care about the consequences anymore. I don't care. We need to kill these people.
There it is in no uncertain terms. We need to kill these people. Not we need to be prepared to defend ourselves if they attack us. That would be one thing. No, he's saying we need to kill these people. He doubles down.
There's just an alternative. I don't care if you say, oh, I've got the crazy eyes, whatever. Yeah, I do feel crazy because we've had 3 people die in 72 hours, and we've had over almost 30 die in the last year to a group of quote-unquote law enforcement that is basically just buffed up mall cops, right? Who are gun-triggering happy Proud Boys. Let's call them what they are. It's the Proud Boys. Why do you think we didn't hear about them? Any of you heard about the Proud Boys all year? Suddenly no more Nazi marches? None of that shit? Right. There we go. They're Nazis. Peyton said it best. They're Nazis. And the only way to stop this shit, let's be honest, is gonna be to get violent. We gotta get violent, people. And I'm tired of denying it, and I'm tired of y'all being pussies about it. Grow up! We're not gonna get through this holding hands. Peaceful protest only works if your enemy has a moral obligation to listen to it. They have none! You guys are sitting there holding up signs and saying, oh, I'm mad at you. You're pathetic! Burn something!
Completely unambiguous. And I will agree with him. He's right on one thing. These people are pathetic. That's true. They've sold out their country for a bunch of illegal aliens and third worlders who quite literally couldn't care less about them. And God forbid this situation get any worse, they will just pack up and leave on their own. Do you think all these Somali immigrants are going to stand and fight for Minneapolis? No. The moment they've sucked the Minnesota coffers dry and things get rough here in the homeland, they're just going to go back to Mogadishu. That's what they're going to do. But this guy is saying, no, we can't peacefully protest for these people anymore. We have to just start killing people. And again, like I said, if you want to bring a firearm and peacefully protest, but at the same time be armed and ready to defend yourself, by all means, I'm a Texan. I have a gun sitting on my desk right now. I have tons of firearms. I love firearms. I think they're great. He's not saying peacefully protest, but be ready to defend yourself. He's saying peaceful protest doesn't work. Kill ICE agents. That's what this crazy leftist is saying, and I guarantee you he's not alone. He's just one of the few that's actually crazy enough to go post this online. He should be on a watch list. He probably is. But that's what we're dealing with. That's who these people are. They just want to escalate. What do you think happens when we get to the point where one person pulls a gun on ICE, is shot, somebody else starts shooting at ICE, gets shot, next thing you know, ICE agents have been killed, protesters, quote unquote, because that's what they'll be called by the media, peaceful protesters shot and killed by ICE. That'll be the headline. And then 2 days later, we'll find out, oh, actually, he was shooting at the ICE officer. That's why they killed him. But he'll be called a peaceful protester, and people will march in his honor too. He'll be on a t-shirt. He'll get a hashtag. And then this escalates. And now we're in a situation where every single ICE officer can reasonably assume that every single person in a crowd of protesters is armed and ready to attack them. And they are going to be skittish. They're going to be trigger happy, as they should be. Maybe not trigger happy, but they should definitely be skittish, and that leads to trigger happy. And this is all because leftists continue to escalate. They won't sit and have a single modicum of honesty about the situation and say, okay, yeah, this lady was driving her car towards these ICE officers. It is reasonable that they fired on her in self-defense. They won't have that. No, it's a peaceful protester that was killed, and so we need to start murdering ICE officers. That's what we're getting from the left right now. Where do you think that's going to go? They know exactly where it's going to go, and they want it because they can campaign off the chaos. I've already seen it. I've already seen the posts on Twitter. We didn't have any of this during Joe Biden's term. That's because you guys weren't starting anything. You're right. You guys weren't protesting and starting riots and attacking ICE officers and burning cities down when Joe Biden was president. We understand. We get it. It's political blackmail. Give us the president we want, or we will kill people and burn cities down. That is the pitch from the militant wing of the left-wing party. And make no mistake, the militant wing has control. There are no elder moderates in the Democrat Party that are saying, no, calm down. Calm down. This is politics. We can disagree civilly. That doesn't exist on the left. Those people get cast out. Those people were the RFK Juniors of the Democrat Party, the Tulsi Gabbards. They were the ones who would sit and say, no. Let's be reasonable. The Fettermans, for example, there's one that's still in the party. He's on his way out. I guarantee it. You don't think the moment he's up for re-election, somebody's going to primary him? You got another thing coming. He had a friendly football wager with Ted Cruz. He's basically a Nazi now. That's what I've been told. Because remember, Donald Trump and all his supporters and all his friends, anyone that supports this administration, they're Nazis. That's where we've gotten to with the left. And again, they have no motivation to tone things down. Because if they tone things down, they can't win. They can't win elections because their policies are terrible. So they're not going to tone things down. They're going to keep pushing the violent rhetoric, the craziness, and it's going to keep escalating. And then they're going to blame it on ICE. This is inevitable at this point. All right, we got a little bit more to talk about here, and then we're going to dig into Supreme Court a little bit because I think it's worth mentioning. We'll be right back. Okay, so I've kind of pinned this escalatory spiral that we're on, and I want to touch on this real quick before we get into the Supreme Court. I pinned this primarily on the radical activists. And make no mistake, they are, for the most part, the ones responsible. But the pandering politicians that are desperate for their vote also bear some blame here. And I'll give you an example. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey. I I think, bears a little bit of responsibility for this, because he's going out and saying, "Oh, no, we're going to look into arresting these people. We might put these ICE agents in jail." That's doing two things. One, it's opening the door between open conflict between local authorities and federal authorities. Because just vision cast with me for a moment. What do you think is going to happen when an ICE officer is trying to carry out his duty of arresting and detaining illegal aliens, and then a Minneapolis Police Department officer, because a political mayor and a political police chief told him to, goes and tries to arrest that ICE officer? You think he's just going to sit and take that? No, he's going to shove him off. That local police officer is going to get jumped by two other ICE officers because they travel in packs, because they have to. And then it's going to escalate from there. And before you know it, we have Civil War II. We've got state and local police having open shootouts with ICE officers because the politicians opened the door to it, because they wanted to pander to the radical leftists who want that, because it makes them feel good, because they have main character syndrome. Here's Jacob Frey saying this, just so you know I'm not making crap up. Here he is openly saying this.
You're basically asking, can our cops arrest them?
The answer is no, you can't.
Yeah.
From a legal perspective, yes. From a practical perspective, to state the reality, yeah, it does get kind of hard when they drastically outnumber us and they have bigger guns than we do. It does. And here's the
So listen to what he's saying. Can we arrest them? From a legal perspective, yes. So he's now making the false claim that it's completely legal to arrest ICE agents for doing their job, which it's not. But then he's saying, oh, the only reason we're not arresting these people is just because, gosh, I wish we could, but they've got more manpower and their guns are bigger than ours. You think all these crazy leftists are just going to be, oh, well, I guess that's it. They're going to say, no, they're going to say, I have a gun. I got an AR. I've got my little $400 AR-15. I can go to a protest and pow, pow, pow. Because the mayor wants to, but we just can't. But I can. Because I have main character syndrome and hero complex. Because I'm mentally deranged. Because that's who the left is. That's what Jacob Frey is setting up here. And he goes on even later in this video. I won't play it because I don't want to burn all of our time before we get to the Supreme Court. I want to make fun of some transvestites and liberals here. But he goes on to say in this video, I'm not ruling it out. So the door's opened in his mind. And if it's opened in his mind, that means it's only a matter of time before he actually tries it. And God help us when he does, because it's not going to go well. And we all know it's not going to go well, but I guess he doesn't care. Stephen Miller of the Trump administration, who, by the way, I love, had a great response to this as well. He's like, you know what? Try it. Because we're not going to let you do this. The federal government has the back of its law enforcement, which should be the position of the federal government. Let your officers do their job. ICE was created by the Congress to enforce laws passed by the Congress, which the executive, which is the president and his administration, is responsible for ensuring happens. So by all means, double down, have the backs of your ICE officers, and don't let these ridiculous politicians who are pandering to crazy people stop you from doing that. It doesn't look like Stephen Miller has any interest in doing that. Take a listen to this.
To all ICE officers, you have federal immunity in the conduct of your duties. And anybody who lays a hand on you or tries to stop you or tries to obstruct you is committing a felony. You have immunity to perform your duties, and no one, no city official, no state official, no illegal alien, no leftist agitator or domestic insurrectionist can prevent you from fulfilling your legal obligations and duties. And the Department of Justice has made clear that if officials cross that line into obstruction, into criminal conspiracy against the United States or against ICE officers, then they will face justice.
So remember what I told you about just a minute ago, that spiral. The left escalates. We're forced to meet that because if we don't, we'll be overwhelmed, right? We're here, they're here, they go up to here, we have to go up to here or they're going to wipe us out. That's what's happening. So Jacob Frey says, oh, I'm going to arrest ICE agents, or I want to arrest ICE agents, or I'll try to arrest ICE agents later. And Stephen Miller says, okay, no, if they try to arrest you while you're performing your legal duties, that's a felony. You can arrest them. So guess what? Now we've got Minneapolis police and ICE both trying to arrest each other. Where do you think that goes? What in the world do you think happens there? But the left isn't thinking. All they can think about is pander, pander, pander. And that escalates. We're stuck in a loop. And we have to keep rising to meet them because we have to deport these people. These are criminals. These are monsters for a large part. And if nothing else, they're not supposed to be here. This is our country. It belongs to us. We have a process if you want to become one of us, but you don't get to sneak in under the gate or over the river. You have to go through the process, and if you don't, we will deport you. Because that's how you keep a country alive. That's the only way a country survives, is if it has strong borders. So we have to enforce those borders, and we simply have to steamroll anyone who stops us from doing what, by the way, the law says we have to do. God help us if this continues. Anyway, let's close out with a less serious note. Liberals are stupid, right? You guys remember Ketanji Brown Jackson? She's the Supreme Court justice who famously could not define what a woman was during her confirmation hearings because I'm not a biologist. I'm not either. I know a woman is an adult human female because I'm not an idiot. This woman's a Supreme Court justice. By the way, she still hasn't figured it out. This is her trying to get down to the definition of a woman, which she wants to pretend doesn't exist during a court hearing that requires the definition of a woman. So this is Ohio and West Virginia have laws that ban men from women's sports. It's made it all the way up to the Supreme Court. Here's Ketanji Brown Jackson trying to sort out what a woman is.
You have the overarching classification, everybody has to be, play on the team that is the same as their sex at birth. But then you have a gender identity definition that is operating within that, meaning a distinction, meaning that for cisgender girls, they can play consistent with their gender identity. For transgender girls, they can't.
So I think that, okay, so as to the part about your ability to pass over from boy to girl,
yes,
you can go from one way but not the other. I want to be clear that BPJ is not challenging that specific classification. I think that's important to start with. But I think, if anything, that's useful evidence as to the lack of a transgender-based discrimination, because if the legislature were just sort of unsettled by the notion of transgender athletes, I think the answer would have been to then bar them from passing over anyone consistent with their gender.
I appreciate that. I guess I was getting at the what I understood the Chief Justice to be trying to discuss, which was this notion that this is really just about the definition of we accept that you can separate boys and girls, and we are now looking at the definition of a girl, and we're saying only people who were girl assigned at birth qualify.
And
so she just accidentally stumbled her way back into objective reality. She didn't mean to do it, but she did. Yeah, again, it doesn't make any sense. The moment left-wing gender ideology meets even a modicum of objective reality, it collapses on its face. And that's the foundation of this whole case. It's ridiculous. It's going to be settled, I think, in favor of, I believe it's Idaho and West Virginia. I may have said Ohio earlier. That's incorrect. But anyway, that's all I've got today. Thank you very much for listening. Happy Wednesday. Have a great rest of the week. We'll see you Sunday at 7 p.m. on AM 950 KPRC for more of the Next Gen Report.